So if you want to become a teacher in the near future, you should probably know what is happening and what is going to happen to our profession. It's happened to many professions before, and it's simply called division of labor. I personally refer to it as the splitting of the job. In the past, teachers used to do everything. We used to present in front of the class, we used to talk to each student individually, we used to communicate with parents and sometimes prepare our own teaching materials. That is still happening, but it's not going to be done by the same people for much longer. And this is what today's video is about. I think if you're choosing the profession of the teacher, you might have to choose again a job within a job. There are several, let's call them subclasses within our profession. In terms of your attitude to work and the actual activity that you do, you could be, for example, a presenter. Presenters present. They very often end up on social media, like YouTube. They do very, very scalable work. They can present to millions if they're really successful. And it pays a lot. But it's a winner-take-all market. A lot of presenters who are really good and who present to huge audiences. If you think you want to become one, you have to become really good at many other jobs in addition to presenting. There are also checkers. I call them checkers, but they're just very particular about homework. They like testing, they like assessments, they like making sure that the student knows what they had told them. If they wanted to, they could do it full time. There are jobs like that already. And I think it will be a separate activity, sub-job within teaching. There are also administrators, those who are particularly fond of reports, standards. They have very high attention to detail. A lot of them would love to become former teachers, actually, and they become administrators somewhere in the system. Tutors, that's another class or subclass. They just excel at one-on-one. They don't need a lot of experience. There's no need for crowd control. They have extreme levels of empathy. And the more empathy they have, the better they do, and the more they enjoy the job. The only problem with this is that it's hard to scale, but the fact that it's done mostly by college kids and high school kids just kind of compensates for it. Almost everybody can do some type of tutoring. They're also creators, in particular creators of teaching materials. That's who I mean by creators. It's the teachers who only use their own material because they designed it. They prefer it to everything else. And if you let them, and if you pay them, they could do it at a very high level. And sometimes they even end up on websites like Teachers Pay Teachers and just sell their work and make a lot of money. There's another subclass of teachers who just end up in this profession, experts. They're experts in their field, but they're not really fond of teaching. They have very little patience for those who have very short attention span, those who aren't as interested in the subject as they are. You probably know a teacher who hates the fact that their subject isn't number one, and not everybody is a fan of it. If you think about it, this is what happened to Walt in Breaking Bad. That dissonance is what brought Walter White to the state in which we find him in the pilot episode. He's overqualified, underpaid, underappreciated. You know the story. There are also zombie teachers. They're just teachers who aren't bad enough to be fired. They just don't do any of these jobs particularly well. In conclusion, if you are thinking about choosing this profession, you should probably choose the subclass as well. You can do two jobs really well, but you have to know this is a split that's happened in many different industries, creative industries too, and the fact that it hasn't happened yet in state-run systems doesn't mean it isn't going to happen. It's a division of labor. You can't really resist it. Maybe the fact that it hasn't happened in many state-run systems is what makes them less competitive than private education on a global scale. But that's probably for another video. Pick two, don't pick an expert, don't pick a zombie. You will be fine in our profession for the foreseeable future.